I am going to show you how to create Doom Eternal's dashing system. I'll be creating settings similar to the game, but feel free to tweak the code to your liking. In order to understand what we're trying to accomplish, let us first look at how Eternal's dashing works. First of all, when you dash once, the bar recovers quickly and makes sound 1. When you dash twice, it takes longer and makes a different sound. Second, when dashing in the air, the bar recovers fully but won't let you use the dash until you have landed on the ground. Third, when falling, the dash moves forward linearly instead of falling while dashing. Lastly, when dashing while standing still, the character will dash forward, but when moving in a certain direction, the character will dash towards that direction. Now that we know what we're going to do, let's get started. Start off by deciding what button you want to use for the dash. I will be using the Q button. Drag out a do once node and a sequence. Add a delay node and connect it to the reset. This is to prevent the boost button from being spammed. Create a variable and call it something like dash counter. Set it to be an integer. This variable will count the dash amount. In Doom you can dash twice, but like I said, feel free to tweak the settings to your liking. Next, add an increment int node and connect the counter to it. Drag out a switch on int node, connect the counter to it, and add 4 numbers. From number 1, drag out a launch character node, set the value to 100, and select the Z override variable to be true. This node will put our character slightly up in the air, so that the dash value is the same when our character is standing and in the air. Drag out a delay node and set the value to 0.05. Using the character movement as reference, drag out a set gravity scale node and set it to 0. This is to make sure the character dashes forward even if he's falling. Drag out a stop active movement node from the movement as well. This step is optional, but if you want your dash to have a sound effect, drag out a play sound 2D node. Drag out a branch node. From the true, drag out another launch character node. Then, find the get velocity node, split the vector, make it a vector again, and split it again. From the branch condition, drag out an OR bool. Drag out 2 equal booleans, connect one to x and the other to y, and let the below value be 0. Next, split the launch vector and get a get actor forward vector node as well. Split it. Drag out a multiply subnode and set the value to something like 5000. What we are doing in this step is to check whether the character is moving or not. If the character is not moving, we want him to dash forward, and if he is moving, we want him to dash in the direction that he is moving. Duplicate the launch node, and from the make vector node, drag out 2 multiply subnodes and set the value to 5. Connect the x to the x and the y to the y. Connect the false to it. Then, drag out a create widget node and add it to the viewport. This is what we will use for the dash blur effect, but feel free to get creative here. Drag out a delay node and set the value to 0.2. From the widget variable reference, drag out a remove from parent node. Then drag out a stop movement immediately node. This is pretty much the same as the stop active movement node, but I decided to use this one here. Then, set the gravity to your character's default gravity value. Then drag out a retriggerable delay and promote the delay to a variable. This is the first dash recover time value, so when dashing once, we want it to recover quick, but for the second dash, we want it to take a little bit longer. I will try setting it to 0.5, but this might require some tweaking. Create another variable and set it to be a boolean. This variable is going to help us make sure that the character has to land before the dash recovers properly. Set it to be true. Drag out another branch and create another variable called something like landed. This part doesn't require a switch on int node unless you are using sounds, but this is to make sure that we get a different dash recover sound when dashing once or twice. What is important here, however, is to set the dash counter to 0 and complete to false. Now drag out an event on landed event. Set the landed variable to be true. You don't need to use a sequence here. and do the upper part, unless you want your character to have a groundland sound. Drag out a branch, connect it to another or Boolean, and connect the dash counter to equal subnodes like we did earlier. But set the values to 1 and 2. Connect another branch and set the complete as the condition. From the true, drag out a do once node and connect it to the set counter to 0. We do it like this so that if the character has used the dash in the air, you will be able to reuse the dash after landing. Connect the end to the reset. Find your character's jump event and create a jump variable. Set it to true and set the landed variable to false. Now we have to add the blur effect. Create a new widget and give it a name. Add a canvas panel and a blur effect. Scale the blur effect according to the screen and make sure you anchor it to the screen as well. Set the blur strength to something. This is also something that may need to be tweaked later. Drag out an image. This will be the blur white corners. I found this picture on Google, but you can probably do better. Scale it according to your screen and anchor this as well. Set the opacity to a low value for a better effect. Set the widget to the one we just created. The dashing works, but we can only dash once. I will also add some sounds to make it cooler. I am using the Doom Eternal dash sound effects. You can use your own or download the sounds from the description. In order to create the second dash, copy everything before the retriggerable delay, duplicate it, and connect it to the second number. Change the duration if you want the second dash to recover slower and connect it to the retriggerable delay. It works great, but there's 2 more things left to do. In order to make sure that the dash counter doesn't become 3 or more, set it to 2 like I do. You can also increase the delay time. Then find the complete branch and to the false, connect a delay node, set the value really low, and reconnect it to the branch. If you want to add some more sounds, you can do it like this. This is a jumping sound, and this is a landing sound. I created custom events to make random sounds so that it sounds more realistic. But this has nothing to do with the dashing. That's it. Hope you understood.